it's a new day. Hear his word, let us pray. The sunrise morning show. Can't wait to start your day.
It is Wednesday, the 24th of September. It is the Feast of Our Lady of Walsingham. Let's begin with a prayer to Our Lady in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. O Mary, recall the solemn moment when Jesus, your divine Son, dying on the cross, confided us to your maternal care. You are our mother. We desire ever to remain your devout children. Let us therefore feel the effects of your powerful intercession with Jesus Christ. Make your name again glorious in the shrine once renowned throughout England by your visits, favors, and many miracles. Pray, O Holy Mother of God, for the conversion of England, restoration of the sick, consolation for the afflicted, repentance of sinners, peace to the departed. O Blessed Mary, Mother of God, Our Lady of Walsingham, intercede for us. Amen. It's a better way to start a Wednesday morning, the Sunrise Morning Show here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. I'm Matt Swaim. Anna Mitchell has news. Paul Lockman at the controls. And up this hour, we'll check in with Amy Wellborn from the blog Charlotte Was Both. Perhaps you've gotten some of her saint books along the way as well. Dr. John Bergsma continues our series on the scriptural roots of the year of Jubilee. After the half-past news, Gary Zimak will be with us to discuss another verse from Jesus that inspires us, but also challenges us a little bit today. And then Ken Craycraft will look at Catholic social doctrine and the idea of market regulation. Is Catholic social teaching full-on laissez-faire capitalism, or are there some qualifications? And how specific do those get? Or are they mostly principles? Well, Ken will unpack it all at the end of the hour. Right now, it's 2 minutes past. Here's Anna Mitchell with news.
Good morning. President Trump has said NATO nations should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. He made the comment as he was meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations yesterday. It marked the fourth time the two leaders have met since Trump has returned to office as they look for an end to the war with Russia. Trump has said the U.S. has great respect for the fight Ukraine is putting up and added the ongoing war is not a good thing for Russia. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem sent a video message yesterday to an interfaith prayer service organized by the Santa Gidio community in Rome for peace in the Holy Land. From Vatican Radio, Deborah Castellano-Lubov has more.
Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa joined via video message from the Holy Land, saying, "We are heartbroken. In 35 years, I've never seen a moment so dark." He says that we've left space to extremists on both sides, but I still trust, he noted, in the many gentle of heart who quietly work for justice and peace. The Patriarch called for truth and justice with love toward all, warning that violence only fuels more hatred in a vicious cycle. Notably, he underscored when the language of force fails, when this entire structure of violence collapses, we must be ready to bring the strength of meekness so that all may inherit in beauty and love the land God has given us. Presiding over the vigil, Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti was equally direct. War is never a random tragedy, he said. It is chosen, willed, and it can and must be stopped. He added every violation of human rights is the result of specific decisions. War is not fate, it's a choice, and we must choose differently. Bassetti emphasized dialogue and human dignity, urging believers to never betray their shared humanity. The vigil included prayers for the hostages, war victims, and children in Gaza, with testimonies from people on the ground, including a poem from a Gazan mother. As voices rose in prayer, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi reminded listeners that not only Italy but all of Europe must become a teacher of peace. From Rome to Jerusalem, the vigil's message was clear that peace is possible. I'm Deborah Castellano-Lubov.
Jimmy Kimmel returning to his late-night ABC talk show after his suspension for comments about the response to the murder of Charlie Kirk, did not directly apologize last night, but did reach out to those he offended. He also defended free speech in the U.S., saying his show is not important but it is important to live in a country that allows a show like his to air. And he noted Erica Kirk's comments this past weekend at her husband's memorial service.
On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow.
Kimmel noted that he and Kirk both believe in the teachings of Jesus and said he was touched by her words.
That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope
President Trump, for his part, is criticizing ABC for putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. More from Tammy Trujillo.
In a Truth Social post Tuesday night, Trump said he, quote, can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. He added that the network told the White House Kimmel's show was canceled. Trump also indicated his administration might take action against ABC, saying Kimmel is an arm of the DNC and that could be a major illegal campaign contribution. He went on to say last time he went after ABC, it gave him $16 million. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Some local stations still aren't seeing Jimmy Kimmel live, as Sinclair Broadcast Group and Nexstar Media Group both are preempting the show, remaining in talks with ABC. And the Yankees clinched a playoff berth after rallying for a 3-2 win over the White Sox in their series opener from the Bronx. New York is leading the AL wildcard and sits one game back of first place in the AL East.
This is a very intense week of baseball.
Yes, it is.
Anna Mitchell.
And we have Father Phil on this today.
I don't know how.
Not this hour, next
no.
hour.
The Mets won last night. The Reds lost,
Yeah.
which reset the balance in the NL wild card. And so, yeah, it's going to be tense times between you and I and Mets fan Father Philip.
Well, you can bet we won't be. I will not be closing with baseball news.
No, don't use that as your kicker next hour.
Just to keep things, nice and
Goodness
calm and, charitable.
Well, but this is the glory of the universal church, that it can
right?
bind us all together in the body of Christ, despite where our sports allegiances might drag us.
Father Phil, we love you no matter what happens.
That's right. That's right. We'll just leave it at that. What say? It's 7 minutes past the hour. I'm Matt Swaim, joined now by Amy Wellborn, and perhaps you've read some of her great books on the saints over the years especially, or checked out her blog, Charlotte Was Both. Amy, welcome back.
Thanks. Great to be here this morning.
I'm really excited to talk about this particular post. You have been reflecting on the value of tradition and reflecting in sort of a unique kind of way. What got you thinking about this?
Well, as you said, it's one of my themes, looking at the role of tradition in spiritual life. But I ran across an academic article that is available online about the practice of faith that prisoners maintained in a particular concentration camp during World War II. The Gusen concentration camp, which is in Upper Austria, but held mostly Polish prisoners. So there was a very interesting article about how these men, all men and mostly lay people with a few priests, maintained their spirituality and gained great strength from it.
Well, this isn't entirely a Fahrenheit 451 situation, but it's not entirely not. How did they maintain their tradition? And how did their rootedness in a tradition help them when they'd had everything, all the visible and tangible elements of their faith taken away from them?
Exactly, and I think that's a crucial point. Well, first of all, as I said, this was a camp that was inhabited mostly by Polish prisoners. After Germany invaded Poland in the late 30s, one of their first goals was to wipe out the Polish intelligentsia, the intellectual leadership of the country. And so, tens of thousands of men were taken, were either killed, exterminated, or brought to this camp for a lengthier extermination via labor. And many of them were priests. Hundreds of them were priests. The priests were there at this camp for a few months or a couple of years, and then most of them who were still alive were transferred to Dachau. There were priests there for some time, but most of them, of course, were laity. And as you mentioned, everything was taken away from them. They had no books, they had no rosaries, they had none of that, but they had what they had memorized. They had what they had practiced for years, the prayers that they had prayed in their memories, in their hearts for years. They had the traditions, the devotionals to various aspects of Our Lady and so on that they brought with them, and that in secret, they were able to maintain. When they could, they fabricated little elements or, material devotional elements, but of course that was very challenging to them. But the narratives of those who miraculously somehow survived the camp, tell us how important this was to them and how even this was a moment of spiritual maturation. So one fellow said that he had spent hours contemplating the dignity of being a child of God. No longer was the mystical body of Christ simply a theological concept, but he felt that God was physically in my soul. And those viewers, those listeners who've seen the new film on St. Maximilian Kolbe,
that's absolutely 100% in my mind as you're saying all this.
Right, Triumph of the Heart. Know that this is, if this prayer, if this understanding and this sensibility that God is with us is in you, and if that presence has been kind of built up by the building blocks of memorizing words and practices, especially, you have something for it to hang on to, then it is more possible to maintain that sense of God's presence in the most dire circumstances. And I think this is something that, we know from our own ordinary lives that are not led in concentration camps. If we've memorized prayers, I know that for me, in a moment of crisis or surprise or distress, the things that come back to me are almost instinctively saying a Hail Mary or a Glory Be or an Our Father. I don't
St.
have
Michael prayer, right?
Exactly.
Some of these,
exactly.
Memorare even.
Yeah, that was the next one I was going to say, and it just comes to us, and that's we're Catholics are often criticized for our quote vain repetitions, which all memorized prayers supposedly are, but we know they're not. Even those who critique us kind of will lean back usually on a Bible verse or something, a memorized Bible verse,
or a memorized Christian song, right?
That's right, exactly, repeated over and over again. And so it's making those kinds of things, memorized prayers, repeated devotional practices, a part of our spiritual life is not an immature thing. It's not a sign of not being able to pray on our own or dig deep on our own. It's a necessary building block, I think, in order to have something tangible, more tangible to hook our spiritual lives onto, especially in moments of crisis. And I will, I'll say that one of the most moving aspects of this story of what these prisoners did in this camp does involve creating something tangible. Of course, you can pray the rosary without a physical rosary. I think all of us do it. We got 10 fingers, you can keep track that way or just do it in your mind. But it is, it's nice to have a physical, material rosary. And, of course, the rosary is also a very recognizable object. And so what the prisoners did was, at one point, is that they constructed cubes out of various materials, metal, concrete, whatever, leftover concrete that they found. They found cubes, and they would distribute those among themselves as and not even strung together at that point, just a cube that was a physical, material thing to hang on to as one prayed the rosary in one's soul. And the most moving aspect of this was that they drilled holes in these cubes and filled them with ashes from the crematorium. Those have survived, and those survived the camp, and survivors of the camp strung them together and have, in a post-war era, in various times, presented them to various shrines And so you can see them now, and they have gathered and presented them in celebration of the election of Pope John Paul II, and so on and so forth. Their faith survived, and they attribute their survival in the camp to, the spiritual strength that they got from having these memorized prayers and traditions, and the way that all of that was able to keep them mindful of God's presence with them in the most horrible circumstances.
Well, thanks so much, Amy Wellborn. You can find her blog linked in the show notes at sunrisemorningshow.com. We're back with headlines right after this. It's 1:15. Support is from Christendom College. Catholic schools need leaders who understand their mission. Christendom College's Center for Educational Philosophy and Leadership offers Master of Education and Doctor of Education degrees online that equip educators to lead with confidence, clarity, and an uncompromising commitment to the faith. If you're called to shape the future of Catholic education, the tools to succeed are at Christendom College. Christendom.edu/education. That's Christendom.edu/education.
Support for the Sunrise Morning Show is from Central Fabricators, a custom fabrication company and emerging leader in the production of distilling equipment. Central Fabricators offers a wide range of custom tanks, pressure vessels, and cookers designed to meet the unique needs of each customer. They use the latest technology and high-quality materials to create distilling equipment that is durable, efficient, and easy to maintain. Find out more online at centralfabricators.com. That's centralfabricators.com.
Mystic Monk Coffee has brought back their pumpkin spice blend, and unlike the competition, buying their coffee has the added bonus of supporting the Carmelite Monks of Wyoming and the Sunrise Morning Show.
Go to sunrisemorningshow.com and click the Mystic Monk link to get that or any of their other coffee blends or teas. When you check out, we earn a commission.
And there's no better vessel for your Mystic Monk pumpkin spice latte than a Sunrise Morning Show mug or travel mug. Find those in our online store.
Do pumpkin spice the Catholic way. Just head on over to sonrisemorningshow.com.
This is Father Dwight Longenecker. Why do you need to go to confession? Well, it's easy to receive forgiveness for the things we've done wrong, but more importantly than that, one of the beauties of confession is that when we go to confession, we take responsibility for ourselves. Our world is besieged by those who feel entitled and want to blame others and expect others to do everything for them. When we go to confession, by God's help, we're saying, it's my job, it's my responsibility, I'm going to get on and do what I can to change myself and change the world with God's help.
17 past. Here's Anna with headlines.
President Trump spoke at the UN General Assembly yesterday and also met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem sent a video message yesterday to an interfaith prayer service for peace in the Holy Land, and Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans.
Give us the details. I know that there are people listening right now on 690 AM 1015, Catholic Community Radio in New Orleans, WQNO, and they want to know.
Well, you have received Metuchen Bishop James Cecchio as your new coadjutor Archbishop. So Archbishop Amond, still the man in charge, but Bishop Cecchio will be serving alongside him for I don't know how long. I mean, when we had a coadjutor archbishop here in Cincinnati, he was here for about a year when our archbishop's retirement was officially accepted, and then coadjutor Archbishop Schnurr became the Archbishop at that moment. So who knows? It might be a couple of months that he is the coadjutor. It might be a year that he's coadjutor. I don't know what the longest coadjutor tenure is.
I don't know even how to look that up, Anna Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't know that there's
of the day.
I don't know that there's a stat book about such things.
I do know that Archbishop Amon is 75 years old, and that's when you are required to submit your retirement, and the Pope can either say, yes, congratulations, you may retire, or he may say, let's let you hang on for a little bit.
Let us sit on my desk for a little bit.
Tie up some loose ends. We'll see you. No need to rush. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to the folks listening in the Archdiocese of New Orleans.
Absolutely.
And we'll see where things go from there.
And Metuchen,
that is a
we'll
weird
be
transition, though.
For you as well.
New Jersey to New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So
that'll be a culture shock.
I mean, it's interesting. Some of these bishops, if they become embedded in certain fandoms, we recently had something like this happen in Cincinnati, where the Reds just swept the Cubs in 4 games, and the bishop that we got when the Cincinnati Archdiocese got a new bishop was a guy from Chicago. Mm-hmm. So these are NL Central rivals.
Luckily, he doesn't have very strong baseball feelings
yet.
So he was very happy to don the Reds jersey and hat and throw out the first pitch at a Reds game fairly recently, just in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine, what would be the worst possible situation like that you could be in? If you were Bishop of Ann Arbor and you got shifted to Columbus.
Oh, gosh. Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Oh, boy.
It's 21 past.
Starting to think outside the box to find new customers. You can reach millions of engaged Catholic listeners by underwriting the Sunrise Morning Show. Each weekday morning, listeners across the U.S. and around the globe can hear your message for your business, ministry, or nonprofit on the Sunrise Morning Show. To find out how it works, email me, Leah@sacredheartradio.com. That's Leah@sacredheartradio.com.
Coffee seems to become more important when any new school year rolls around, and this is a year to consider treating yourself to some truly delicious coffee.
For that, we can highly recommend Mystic Monk Coffee, and when you shop their site after clicking the Mystic Monk link at sunrisemorningshow.com, you earn us a commission to help fund the show.
You can also treat yourself to a new Sunrise Morning Show mug or travel mug in our online store.
Get a mug and link to Mystic Monk Coffee through sunrisemorningshow.com.
That's sunrisemorningshow.com.
This is Every Day with St. Francis de Sales. The obligation that we have toward the Eternal Father, we have likewise toward Jesus Christ, who, by the redemption, has acquired every right of sovereignty over all redeemed creatures. Let us, therefore, exclaim and say to Jesus, "Yes, my God and my King, reign over my soul, my heart, and my will. Possess all my faculties, and submit them entirely to the scepter of obedience." Since Christ accepted death with love, and held it up before us to be loved, I cannot begrudge the death of anyone, so long as he or she dies in the grace of his most holy death. For Sacred Heart Radio, I am Father Chris Armstrong.
Dr. John Bergsma back with us now on the Sunrise Morning Show. We've been going through his book, Jesus and the Jubilee, the Biblical Roots of the Year of God's Favor. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Anna.
So we have spent a number of weeks diving into the precepts of the Jubilee and sort of the catechetical implications for why God would put these laws in place in the first place. I mean, to my mind, Doc, it feels like these can be boiled down to the Lord helping the people to get Egypt out of their hearts. Would that be a fair assessment?
Certainly. You could say that the Jubilee was meant to perpetuate the Exodus, make sure that we don't go back into that slave mentality, that slave society that was both spiritual, enslaved to these demon gods, as well as material, enslaved to Pharaoh. So a perpetuation of liberty was the goal of the Jubilee in all senses.
But, Doc, the flesh pots and the melons and the cucumbers, I mean, I bring that up in jest, but how did they do? Do we have evidence that the people kept the Jubilee faithfully?
No, there's no direct evidence of them observing the Jubilee. Now, I'm not as pessimistic as some scholars who say that it was never observed. I see some hints and glimpses in little texts scattered through the historical books and the prophets that that it was observed sometimes and somewhere, probably more out in the countryside and rural areas, which tend to be more conservative than certainly in the cities, and it was never really intended for the cities. But for the most part, Anna, as with most of God's law, the Jubilee was something that sat on the books and was not observed.
Okay, so let's read a little bit of Judges. This is the death of Joshua. So I'm in Judges chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. It says, when Joshua dismissed the people, the sons of Israel went each to his inheritance to take possession of the land. Perhaps that's one of those little slivers of evidence, maybe?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the principle. Everybody's got a piece that will always return to them.
Okay, so now verse 7. And the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great work which the Lord had done for Israel. And Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110 years. So that was verses 6 through 8, Doc. What happens 3 verses later?
Then the people abandon the Lord and begin to follow the gods of the land, the gods of the Canaanites. And that initiates us into the tumultuous time of the Judges, where you go through cycles of sin and then punishment and then repentance and then salvation through one of the judges that God raises up. And then you have a brief time of peace, and then the cycle starts over again for a couple of centuries, maybe a few centuries. Scholars debate how long, but up and down, up and down.
Well, it's interesting because, it talks about the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all of the great work which the Lord had done for Israel. Then Joshua dies, and this generation dies. And then it says that there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord or the work which he had done for Israel. It was like they didn't tell the story to their children.
Yeah, and that's something that it continues to concern us. I mean, many of us, are converts to the faith or have had reversions, etc. And so, we embrace the Catholic faith, but don't always do a good job of telling that story to our children. We assume that they're going to get it by osmosis or something, and that doesn't always work. We have to be very intentional about it, and the ancient Israelites weren't in this instance.
Yeah, for sure. And so the Jubilee falls out of favor, as you were just recounting. So how do things sort of improve with the onset of getting a king? Or I guess the second king, maybe.
Right. So this up and down leadership of the judges, where some charismatic personality will just arise and guide the people for a while. That was very tumultuous. They wanted more stability. They thought they could get that through a king rather than through obeying God's laws. Now, the king was, to some extent, an improvement, because at least there was a common discipline and sort of a central authority that prevented everyone from just being their own king, which is kind of anarchy, as we kind of heard going on in Haiti. So you do have a central authority. That's an improvement. But sadly, even the great kings like David and Solomon did not consistently enforce the observance of God's law. In fact, Solomon in particular contributed to the growth of a wealthy class, and he himself kind of centralized property and resources under the king. And, of course, the Jubilee was meant to keep things distributed among all the people. And so Anna, we don't get a whole lot of improvement, maybe some because there's centralization, at least there's order and there's a law enforcement, so to speak, but not the consistent observance of the Jubilee.
Well, we'll leave it there for now because I want to dive more into Solomon and his successors the next time we get together, and I want to give adequate time to that story and understanding what happens once we get to the exile. So we'll leave it there for now, and in the meantime, encourage folks to go pick up a copy of Jesus and the Jubilee, the biblical roots of the year of God's favor. We've been talking to Dr. John Bergsma, the author. Doc, thank you so much.
You bet. Talk to you next time.
I look forward to it. And you can find all of our guests linked on a daily basis at sonrisemorningshow.com. 5:30 now on the Sunrise Morning Show. It's time for news. Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans. Up until now, Bishop James Cecchio has been the head of the Diocese of Metuchen, New Jersey. He will now head to New Orleans and serve alongside Archbishop Gregory Aymond. Once the Pope officially accepts Archbishop Aymond's retirement, Cecchio will immediately take the reins of the Archdiocese. President Trump says NATO nations should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. He made the comment as he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations yesterday. It marked the fourth time the two leaders have met since Trump has returned to office as they look for an end to the Russian war with Ukraine. Trump said the U.S. has great respect for the fight Ukraine is putting up and added the ongoing war is not a good thing for Russia. Meanwhile, President Trump has said the United Nations can be a very good thing for the world. Here's Mark Mayfield.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Tuesday, Trump said the U.S. is fully behind the UN.
And I think the potential of the United Nations is incredible.
The president added even though he has some disagreements, he backs the UN because of its potential to create peace. Earlier in the day, Trump addressed the General Assembly for the first time of his second term. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem has sent a video message to an interfaith prayer service organized by the Sant'Egidio community in Rome for peace in the Holy Land. From Vatican Radio, Deborah Castellano-Lubov reports.
Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa joined via video message from the Holy Land, saying, "We are heartbroken. In 35 years, I've never seen a moment so dark." He says that we've left space to extremists on both sides, but I still trust, he noted, in the many gentle of heart who quietly work for justice and peace. The Patriarch called for truth and justice with love toward all, warning that violence only fuels more hatred in a vicious cycle. Notably, he underscored when the language of force fails, when this entire structure of violence collapses, we must be ready to bring the strength of meekness so that all may inherit in beauty and love the land God has given us. Presiding over the vigil, Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti was equally direct. War is never a random tragedy, he said. It is chosen, willed, and it can and must be stopped. He added every violation of human rights is the result of specific decisions. War is not fate, it's a choice, and we must choose differently. Bassetti emphasized dialogue and human dignity, urging believers to never betray their shared humanity. The vigil included prayers for the hostages, war victims, and children in Gaza, with testimonies from people on the ground, including a poem from a Gazan mother. As voices rose in prayer, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi reminded listeners that not only Italy but all of Europe must become a teacher of peace. From Rome to Jerusalem, the vigil's message was clear that peace is possible. I'm Deborah Castellano-Lubov.
Pope Leo spent yesterday at Castel Gandolfo, and Vatican News reports he spoke to reporters about the situation in the Holy Land as he was preparing to return to the Vatican for his general audience today. The Holy Father said, quote, "The Holy See recognized the two-state solution some time ago. That is clear. We must seek a path that respects all peoples." He said, "It could help, but right now there is no real willingness to listen on the part of the other side. Dialogue is broken," end quote. Speaking about the situation between Russia and Ukraine, he said, quote, "Someone is seeking an escalation. It's getting more and more dangerous. I continue to insist on the need to lay down arms, halt military advances, and return to the negotiating table." He said, "If Europe were truly united, I believe it could do a lot," end quote. Jimmy Kimmel returned to his late-night ABC talk show after his suspension for comments about the response to the murder of Charlie Kirk and did not directly apologize for his comments, but did reach out to those he offended. He also defended free speech in the U.S., saying his show is not important, but it is important to live in a country that allows a show like his to air. That's the news. You're listening to the Sunrise Morning Show. It's 35 minutes past the hour.
The Sunrise Morning Show.
Now that it's back to school time, are you needing a little more of a pick-me-up to get back into an earlier routine? Look no further than the Mystic Monks of Wyoming for the coffee blends and teas you need to perk you up each morning.
And when you click the Mystic Monk link at sunrisemorningshow.com before you shop, a portion of your purchase price is given to us as a commission.
And while you're at our site, pick up a Sunrise Morning Show mug in our online store for just $10.
Get some great coffee in a great mug, all the while supporting the Sunrise Morning Show by going first to sunrisemorningshow.com.
Business owners are starting to think outside the box to find new customers. You can reach millions of engaged Catholic listeners by underwriting the Sunrise Morning Show. Each weekday morning, listeners across the U.S. and around the globe can hear your message for your business, ministry, or nonprofit on the Sunrise Morning Show. To find out how it works, email me, Leah at sacredheartradio.com. That's Leah at sacredheartradio.com.
A prayer for vocations by our Holy Father, Pope John Paul II. Lord Jesus, as you once called the first disciples to make them fishers of men, let your sweet invitation continue to resound. Give young men and women the grace of responding quickly to your voice. Support our bishops, priests, and consecrated people in their apostolic labor. Grant perseverance to our seminarians and to all those who are carrying out the ideal of a life totally consecrated to your service. Lord, send workers to your harvest, and do not allow humanity to be lost for the lack of pastors, missionaries, and people dedicated to the cause of the gospel. Mary, Mother of the Church, help us to say yes to the Lord, who calls us to cooperate in the divine plan of salvation. For Sacred Heart Radio, this is Father Greg Connerman.
The Sunrise Morning Show continues. I'm Matt Swaim, joined now by Gary Zimak from followingthetruth.com. We've been going through his book, Lord Save Me, and perhaps many of you listening right now are echoing that sentiment in whatever situation you happen to be in life. Gary, good morning.
Hey, Matt, good morning.
All right, so let's hear the very short and pithy and easy to memorize verse that you want to share today.
Yeah, you know, I think this may be the shortest verse we've ever discussed on the air. This is this particular verse. These are two words that come directly from the mouth of Jesus, and this verse I chose to include in the chapter of my book on confusion. I think one of the most frustrating things for us sometimes can be either asking the question, Lord, why is this happening to me? Or what do you want me to do, Lord? So, and that can cause anxiety, can cause frustration, and cause many negative emotions. So these are the words of Jesus to us when we look at being confused. What do you want me to do? Or why is this happening to me, Lord? It's John chapter 1, verse 43. Jesus says, follow me. I think one of the most overlooked aspects of our spiritual journey in life is the fact that nothing can happen to us without the Lord's approval. He doesn't will evil. He doesn't will sickness. He doesn't will death. These are consequences of original sin. And evil often comes about because of free will. People can do good, they can do evil. So there are bad things that can happen to us in life. There are unpleasant situations. There are opportunities. It's not all bad. There are various opportunities. But basically, nothing can happen to us in our lives without the Lord's permission. In other words, He's in control. I think it's a very comforting thought. And I think for those of us who are confused, who are trying to discern, what do you want me to do, Lord, or why are you letting this happen to me? I think it's important for us to hear those words of Jesus as we begin the day today, saying, Gary, come follow me. I'm going to set up things for you today. You're going to meet people. You're going to enter into various situations. These are all opportunities for you to serve me, to help others get to heaven, and to help yourself get to heaven. In other words, the Lord is in control, and everything that's happening is happening for a reason.
Yeah. And, that is the sort of scary thing, but it's also the comforting thing. Like when someone you trust says to trust you, you ask you to trust them, you are, first of all, being asked to do something scary, but second of all, you're being asked to do something scary by someone who you trust, right?
Right.
So it's sort of like this mix of emotions. If it was somebody that I didn't trust and didn't care about and they asked me to do something, I could just dismiss it real easy, right?
Yeah.
But if it's someone that you trust who's asking you to do something, then that's a different kind of proposition. Philip is the one who Jesus is talking to when he says this. And I find it interesting that that's kind of all we get about Philip's vocational call and his invitation to be an apostle. That Jesus basically goes up to Philip, who's from the same town as Peter and Andrew, and says, "Follow me." Right. And Philip does.
Right, exactly.
Well, there's got to be more to Philip's story, but that's kind of what we get.
Yeah, and there's another way to look at this as well. When Jesus says, "Follow me," I mean, I look at that as him telling me, "I need you to be me today to those people around you and in every situation." And it opens up another question as well. Okay, Lord, you're allowing this to happen to me. You're allowing me to be in this situation. I'm meeting this person for a reason. I'm getting an idea for a reason. These things. We recognize that the Lord is allowing us to be in various situations and experience various sets of circumstances. But now I have to wonder also and bring it to Him, well, how do you want me to act in this particular situation? But I think just knowing that He is in control, that He's leading me, and that He's asking me to imitate Him. And, if you remember, most of the life of Jesus, just all that we know about Jesus, was one cross after another: rejection, humiliation, and then His ultimate pain, suffering, and death. So He's obviously, if we're going to follow Him down the road He walked, there's going to be suffering involved. But when we do that, we know that we are closely uniting with Him, and we're given a chance to carry on His work. So it really gives meaning to the unpleasant situations and circumstances that we encounter. But it's not all bad, because Jesus partied at times. He hung out with people. He was at the wedding at Cana. He took his followers up onto the top of the mountain. So there are moments of relaxation. There's moments of rest as well. There's those mountaintop experiences as well as the valley. So it's not all bad. It's good sets of circumstances as well. But the point is, we get to be Jesus today. We get to go where He went, and we are able to bring Him into every situation that we will encounter.
Well, I love the way that you set that up, that Jesus wants us to be instruments in what He intends to do. Right? Yeah. He wants to figure out how to involve us in the thing that He wants. I mean, He could easily just do it all Himself.
Exactly.
So we mentioned that this verse is in the context of Jesus going to Galilee, and He finds Philip and says, "Follow me," and then Philip follows Him. But right. That's not a one-and-done situation, because a few chapters later, it is in John chapter 6, where Jesus sees a great crowd coming towards Him, and He turns to, guess who? Philip. Yeah. And he asks Philip a question that he sort of already knows the answer to, right? It says, right. "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" It even says in John 6:6, he asked this only to test Him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. And then Philip says, "Well, I don't know, it'd take half a year's wages to buy enough bread for everybody to have a single bite." Right? So in some ways, Philip makes a huge life-altering decision by following Jesus, but Jesus is not done teaching him what it means to follow.
Exactly. I'm really glad you brought up that verse, because it gives us an insight into the very human thinking of Philip. I always love that. Philip, that would be me in that situation.
Yeah, all the apostles he could have bugged and poked at to say, "Hey, who's going to find the food?" He picked Philip.
Yeah. And Philip said, we don't have enough. What are you kidding? We can't do this. I thought you just said, "Follow me." I'm following you. Now you're supposed to do something. And the beautiful thing is, our Lord did do something there. He performed that miracle, and He fed all those people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. So you're right, it's not a one and done. He says, follow me, but then in every situation, all right, now we're here, Lord, what do we do? And we see in that feeding up the 5,000 what happened. Jesus took over, and he performed that miracle. But, Philip still didn't get it by that point. He didn't recognize, despite all the miracles he had seen up to that point, living and traveling with Jesus, he didn't realize to turn to him and say, can you help us? You can do this. But eventually Jesus led him, as he leads us. He doesn't expect us to have all the answers. But if we continually follow him, I'll tell you what, man, Matt, every day, if I can do it, I head over to the Adoration Chapel and spend a little time with the Lord. And just yesterday, I was sitting before him saying, Lord, what do you want me to do? How can I serve you, Lord? Give me some ideas. And gradually the ideas come. I've learned to recognize they don't always happen at once, but gradually he tells me how I can act in this given situation. And I think it's important to remember it's an ongoing process, a dialogue between me and the Lord, but you're not going to be able to hear him unless you're following him. So I think that's the message I'm getting from these two words today. Jesus said, just stay close to me. Just receive me in the Eucharist, encounter me whenever you can. I'll lead you. Let's do it one day at a time.
And you don't have to be doing all the time, right?
Right.
Maybe it's our plan that wants us to be doing something
right.
important. And sometimes in the doing, we forget about the being and just the following and being close to the Lord, so that when he does have something for us, we can be in proximity, right, to that request. Well, Gary, if people want to find your book, Lord Save Me, we've got a link at sunrisemorningshow.com to Following the Truth, where you can find all kinds of fun stuff that Gary is up to. Gary Zimak, thanks so much. Have a great day.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, more on Catholic social doctrine with King Craycraft after the break. It's 14 till.
Support for Sacred Heart Radio is from the Comboni Missionaries. For more than 150 years, the Comboni Missionaries share the good news of Jesus Christ and work to protect the dignity of all people. The Comboni Missionaries are dedicated to ministering to the world's poorest and most abandoned in the midst of extreme poverty. Find out how you can help the mission at combonimissionaries.org. That's combonimissionaries.org.
Are you looking for peace? Longing for joy? Want to meet the giver of all goodness? God is calling the laity to bring Ignatian prayer into a suffering world. Work for the new evangelization. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com. Order your free digital training and manual. Find true happiness and everlasting joy. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com and click on the red button today. It's free. Approved by the USCCB.
It's the season of chunky soup and chunky sweaters, which means it's also pumpkin coffee season. And the Mystic Monks have their pumpkin spice blend in stock and ready for you to enjoy.
And when you go to the Monks through sunrisemorningshow.com, we earn a commission on any flavor coffee or tea that you buy.
Why shell out $5 for a tall PSL when you can customize your own at home and drink it from a Sunrise Morning Show mug that you can find in our online store?
Get a mug and link to Mystic Monk Coffee through sunrisemorningshow.com.
Mother Angelica had a simple goal when she began EWTN: to reach the world with the gospel message. EWTN radio services transmit 24/7 on over 500 domestic and international AM and FM radio affiliates, satellite radio, and web streaming. We've never wavered from our mandate to proclaim the truth and majesty of the Catholic faith. Thank you for joining EWTN in this mission.
This is Dr. David Anders. Are your friends or family discouraging you from becoming Catholic? We can help on Called to Communion this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now back to the Sunrise Morning Show.
12 till, here's Anna with headlines.
Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans. President Trump has spoken to the United Nations General Assembly and also met yesterday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, sent a video message yesterday to an interfaith prayer service for peace in the Holy Land. Next newscast in about 13-ish minutes from now as the Sunrise Morning Show continues here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Back with us now on the Sunrise Morning Show is Ken Craycraft, a professor at Mount St. Mary's Seminary. He writes for the Catholic Telegraph and OSV News. He's author of Citizens Yet Strangers, Living Authentically Catholic in a Divided America. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Annie. Good to be with you.
It is good to have you back. And we've been talking about economics through the lens of Catholic social doctrine, and today we are going to talk about market regulation. Now, before we get into the more specific questions, just to lay the groundwork here, what are the major themes of Catholic social doctrine that we have been studying throughout this book that should guide the way that we think about markets?
Well, all four of the pillars always apply to any consideration, but for thinking about the markets and economic life more generally, the dignity of the human person, and therefore, of course, the dignity of the worker, and solidarity are the two that get emphasized the most because they're the two that have the most resonance when we talk about the relationship of the human person to the economic system. An economic system, and by this we don't just mean the relationship between the employer and the employee, which we talked about in the chapter on work, but rather the broader economic system, the ability to participate in the economic system, and what a particular set of economic structures do to the human person. That has to be structured in such a way that the dignity of the human person is respected and that solidarity is also advanced. Now, of course, subsidiarity and the common good also play a part, but those are the two that we think about the most. And the reason that we do that, Annie, is because a free market economy, or a business economy, as St. John Paul II likes to talk about it, has a tendency to veer toward looking only at the bottom line, looking only at profit, looking only at the good of the business enterprise, for example, without consideration either of the workers who comprise that business or the effect of the broader economy in terms of the goods or services that they produce. And that's why we can't consider an economic system simply a collection of transactions between an individual and a business, or an individual and the market. We can't, in other words, reduce a human person merely to the sum of his economic activity, whether that economic activity is when he earns money or when he invests or spends money. The human person is much more than that, and an economic system that doesn't take into account that we are more than simply the sum of our economic transactions is no different whether it's socialism or Marxism or capitalism. If you reduce this human person to nothing other than a consumer or a worker, then you have missed the boat. And therefore, even capitalism or market economy needs some sort of checks and balances, or what we call regulations, in order for it to be steered in the right direction toward the good of the human person.
Right, because in some instances, if there is no oversight whatsoever, the worker becomes the product too, and that leads to down some very nefarious roads.
Exactly. If we simply commodify the worker, then that's going to dehumanize the worker and lead to the alienation that Marx, for example, complained about. Another consideration, Annie, because again, this is broader than just the worker and the relationship of the worker to his employer. Another consideration are those people who, through no fault of their own, are not able to participate in the economy. So a market economy is one in which people engage in the free exchange of goods and services. But some people simply don't have the ability to exchange and to enter into those kinds of exchanges through no fault of their own, through disease, through illness, through incapacity, through age, all kinds of factors that might come in. If the economy is nothing other than the free exchange of people who are able to make those exchanges, those people get left out. So once again, that introduces us to the problem of unfettered capitalism, and the solution that comes in sometimes must come through government regulations. Yeah. If we're not able to do it ourselves, in other words, which would be the principle of subsidiarity, then the government sometimes has to make regulations such that the economy is geared more toward the human person as a person, rather than the human person merely as a commodity or as being reduced to the sum of his exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, there are those who believe that there should be little or no government oversight of the market. And honestly, it would be the ideal if the government didn't have to step in, right? That all businesses just do the right thing.
That's exactly right. If, for example, all businesses were structured in such a way that the employer and the employee work together, pulling in the same direction with the same goal in mind and a common enterprise, then that reduces the need for interference by either by labor unions or by the government through regulation. On the other hand, if businesses do the right thing and not putting toxic materials into the air, not selling goods that are harmful to the human person, not distributing services that are harmful to the human person. I mean, obviously, social media and the way that quote unquote services can be delivered through social media are very, very damaging. And so both of those things, once again, reduce the person to something other than a full human person. And therefore, we need regulation. We don't believe as Catholics in a laissez-faire market, because the laissez-faire market doesn't take into account the need to protect the good of the human person, and most importantly, to protect the person who's not able to participate in the economy through no fault of their own.
So this intervention or interference or whatever word you want to use there, it does need to be measured, right?
Exactly. And that's where subsidiarity comes in, because while on the one hand we hope that an economy can flourish without government interference, on the other hand, sometimes government interference is required. But even when it's required, there are, broadly speaking, two ways that it should be curtailed. One is that there should be set provisions to any kinds of regulation if it can be foreseen that the problem could be taken care of. And the other is that it has to be at the most local and smallest level possible. And that's the principle of subsidiarity, which we can expand upon later.
Yes, and I look forward to it. The book is called Citizens Yet Strangers, Living Authentically Catholic in a Divided America. It's from our Sunday Visitor and linked, of course, in the show notes at sunrisemorningshow.com. We've been talking to Ken Craycraft. Ken, thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie. Have a great day.
You do the same. Thank you. And looking forward to the next hour here on the Sunrise Morning Show. At the end of next hour, Monsignor Jeffrey Steenson will be with us to talk about today's feast, Our Lady of Walsingham. So hope you can stay with us for another hour on most of our affiliates here on EWTN Radio.
It's a new day. Hear his word. Let us pray. The Sunrise Morning Show. Can't wait to start your day.
On this Wednesday, the 24th of September, it's the Feast of Our Lady of Walsingham. Let's pray a prayer for her intercession in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. O Mary, recall the solemn moment when Jesus, your divine Son, dying on the cross, confided us to your maternal care. You are our mother. We desire ever to remain your devout children. Let us therefore feel the effects of your powerful intercession with Jesus Christ. Make your name again glorious in the shrine once renowned throughout England by your visits, favors, and many miracles. Pray, O Holy Mother of God, for the conversion of England, restoration of the sick, consolation for the afflicted, repentance of sinners, peace to the departed. O Blessed Mary, Mother of God, Our Lady of Walsingham, intercede for us. Amen. It is a better way to start a Wednesday morning, the Sunrise Morning Show here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. I'm Matt Swaim. Anna Mitchell has news, Paul Lockman at the controls, and up this hour, we'll talk to Father Philip Michael Tangorra. Pope Leo was recently asked about an AI pope, and he said he was not down with that. I'm summarizing and paraphrasing. But Father Phil will discuss why the idea of an AI pope just simply does not work. I think you have some ideas of your own as to why that is, but we'll go through them a little bit with Father Phil. Dr. Jim Schrader will continue our series on free will and willpower. Derek Roddy is going to discuss what Fulton Sheen had to say about socialism. And then at the end of the hour on this Feast of Our Lady of Walsingham, we'll talk to Monsignor Jeffrey Steenson. And he was actually the first ordinary of the personal ordinariate here in the U.S. and Canada. And at the same time, the personal ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham was established in England. So he'll share a little bit about how that all fits together. Right now, though, it is 2 minutes past News a service of Central Fabricators and centralfabricators.com. Here's Anna Mitchell.
Good morning. Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans. Up until now, Bishop James Cecchio has been the head of the Diocese of Metuchen, New Jersey. He will now head to New Orleans and serve alongside Archbishop Gregory Aymond. Once the Pope officially accepts Archbishop Aymond's retirement, Cecchio will immediately take the reins in New Orleans. President Trump has said NATO nations should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. He made the comments as he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations yesterday. It marked the fourth time they've met since Trump returned to office as they continue to try to end the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Trump said the U.S. has great respect for the fight Ukraine is putting up and added the ongoing war is not a good thing for Russia. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem has sent a video message to an interfaith prayer service organized by the Sant'Egidio community in Rome for peace in the Holy Land. From Vatican Radio, Deborah Castellano-Lubov reports.
Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa joined via video message from the Holy Land, saying, "We are heartbroken. In 35 years, I've never seen a moment so dark." He says that we've left space to extremists on both sides, but I still trust, he noted, in the many gentle of heart who quietly work for justice and peace. The Patriarch called for truth and justice with love toward all, warning that violence only fuels more hatred in a vicious cycle. Notably, he underscored when the language of force fails, when this entire structure of violence collapses, we must be ready to bring the strength of meekness so that all may inherit in beauty and love the land God has given us. Presiding over the vigil, Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti was equally direct. War is never a random tragedy, he said. It is chosen, willed, and it can and must be stopped. He added every violation of human rights is the result of specific decisions. War is not fate, it's a choice, and we must choose differently. Bassetti emphasized dialogue and human dignity, urging believers to never betray their shared humanity. The vigil included prayers for the hostages, war victims, and children in Gaza, with testimonies from people on the ground, including a poem from a Gazan mother. As voices rose in prayer, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi reminded listeners that not only Italy but all of Europe must become a teacher of peace. From Rome to Jerusalem, the vigil's message was clear that peace is possible. I'm Deborah Castellano-Lubov.
Pope Leo spent yesterday at Castel Gandolfo and spoke to reporters about the Holy Land as he prepared to return to the Vatican. He said the Holy See recognized the two-state solution some time ago. That is clear. We must seek a path that respects all peoples. He said, quote, "It could help, but right now there is no real willingness to listen on the part of the other side. Dialogue is broken," end quote. He also was asked about Russia and Ukraine and said, quote, "Someone is seeking an escalation. It's getting more and more dangerous. I continued to insist on the need to lay down arms, halt military advances, and return to the negotiating table," end quote. Jimmy Kimmel, returning to his late-night ABC talk show after his suspension for comments about the response to the murder of Charlie Kirk, did not directly apologize, though he did reach out to those he offended. He also defended free speech in the U.S., saying his show is not important, but it is important to live in a country that allows a show like his to air. He also noted Erica Kirk's comments this past weekend at her husband's memorial service.
On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow.
Kimmel noted that they both believe in the teachings of Jesus and said he was touched by her words. President Trump, for his part, is criticizing ABC for putting Jimmy Kimmel Live back on the air. More from Tammy Trujillo.
In a Truth Social post Tuesday night, Trump said he, quote, "can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." He added that the network told the White House Kimmel's show was canceled. Trump also indicated his administration might take action against ABC, saying Kimmel is an arm of the DNC and that could be a major illegal campaign contribution. He went on to say last time he went after ABC, it gave him $16 million. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And as far as this reporter is aware, there was no rapture yesterday. Of course, this was the newest TikTok trend, preparing for the end times after a South African pastor recently said that it should arrive either yesterday or apparently today, noting that he had a vision that the rapture was coming.
Oh, God in heaven. Wait, do we...
Father Phil, do you know
Father
that we
Phil's,
can hear you right now?
Father Phil's mic was hot.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
That was a hot mic moment right there.
There you go.
Love it.
Let me take you back, Anna Mitchell.
Yeah.
To a day, October 12th. October 22nd, 1844. You know what that?
No, I'm not.
Actually, I'm sorry. It's October 23rd, 1844 is the day that is known as the Great Disappointment.
Oh, okay.
Because October 22nd, 1844 was when William Miller and the Millerite movement proclaimed that Jesus was going to appear that day. Those events actually led to, in part, the founding of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I don't know if you knew that.
Interesting. A friend sent me a screenshot of, I don't know, some Catholic person, Catholic apologist, online influencer or whatever, that I didn't know. I didn't know who this person was.
If it's an influencer, I usually don't know who they are.
But apparently somebody took to the comment feed and said, "Hey, I love how much you love your dogs. I don't know if you've seen or heard about how the rapture is happening this week, but I live only about an hour from you. So I was wondering if we could meet up and you could take care of my dog while I meet our Heavenly Father."
Well,
to which this influencer responds, "Did you just straight up tell me to my face that I'm not worthy of getting raptured, so I should take care of your dog?"
Well, Anna Mitchell, just a little tidbit, little side note. Have you ever read the Left Behind book?
No, I've never read the Left Behind books.
So the fictional Pope in the first volume of the Left Behind series gets raptured.
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
No. Wow.
Maybe a conversation for another day.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, if we're all still here tomorrow, then maybe we can have a little chat. In the meantime, we've got other things to talk about. Thanks for joining us here on the Sunrise Morning Show on this feast of Our Lady of Walsingham. Pray for us. Father Philip Michael Tangorra joining us again on the Sunrise Morning Show. He's a pastor, a canon lawyer, author of Holiness and Living the Sacramental Life, as well as This Is Our Faith. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, everybody.
So there has been a lot of buzz about the book-length interview between Pope Leo and Catholic journalist Elise Allen from Crux. And Crux has been releasing a number of excerpts from their conversation. And in one of them, the Pope reveals that there was apparently a proposal presented to him for an AI version of him. Can you give us the details here?
Yes. So, that really is the main gist, but
what was the purpose of having an AI Pope?
Well, so that people could have a one-on-one papal audience. They would then just be able to go on to their computer or their phone and speak to the AI version of Pope Leo XIV and have an audience with the Pope and ask him questions and all that kind of stuff. And the AI Pope version of Leo XIV would then provide answers to them about the faith and their living a Christian life.
Interesting. And people would be into this?
I presume so, I guess.
Wow.
I don't know.
How intriguing.
But he was very, very much against this. Very, very much against this.
Yeah, what did he have to say about it?
Well, the main thing is that AI is meant to be a tool and can be very helpful in many different aspects of academia and scientific research and the like. However, when you're coming to Christ, it's about an encounter with an actual person. And the only way for that to happen, as John Henry Newman would say, is cor ad cor loquitur. Heart speaks to heart. There has to be the incarnational experience of personal encounter. And one of the things that Pope Leo XIV has warned about AI is the complete loss of human interaction, which would then mean that there's a loss of humanity in general. Human beings were meant for encounter, for actual, concrete, human-to-human encounter, and to experience things. We were given these 5 senses, which includes a sense of touch and all these kinds of things, so that we can have a truly incarnational encounter with our brothers and sisters in Christ. And in Mass, the physical encounter with the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ, true God, true man, crucified and resurrected for our salvation in the Eucharist. This is a human-to-human encounter. This is an actual experiencing of a person and getting to know them. It's not just a digital reality. It's not an artificial reality. And that artificiality is at the core of what Pope Leo XIV is describing as plaguing our society and denigrating authentic human dignity and the experience of human life and the encounter of another person.
Well, this is why I think in some ways it's so problematic that we have truncated artificial intelligence to AI. Like, we don't think about the artificial part of it. But I love how you put this and how Pope Leo spoke of it, because you go back to the first chapters of Genesis, and God is creating the world. God creates man. And everything is good. It is good. It is good. He saw that it is good. It is good. It is good. It is very good. When he gets to man, what is the first thing that is not good? That man should be alone. And when we forget that AI is artificial, we start to believe that we are not alone with artificial intelligence, Pope Leo. I mean, this can get very problematic.
Correct. And that sense of loneliness is one of the largest causes for depression in our society.
Absolutely.
And when people substitute real human encounter with that which is artificial, that's when they take their own life, because it leads to even greater depression because it's empty. It does not actually happen. I mean, that's one of the issues with pornography and all that kind of stuff. Again, it's the changing out of an authentic human encounter with, something
screen.
that's fake.
Yeah.
Something that's fake, and artificial. And so, and that only leaves the person all the more empty. I talk about the 5 temptations that lead to the 7 deadly sins. The 5 temptations are fame, fortune, power, pleasure, and prestige. And these 5 temptations all come out from the wound that we all have from original sin, which is emptiness, loneliness. That is the root of every sin. And if we don't have human encounter and we don't encounter Jesus Christ in this true person, in the Eucharist, we will only be more and more lonely.
So much more that we could say, but I think a beautiful message from Father Philip Michael Tangorra this morning. You can find him and his books linked at sunrisemorningshow.com. Father, I really appreciate you bringing this one to our attention this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure. God bless everybody.
All right, it's 16 past. We're back with headlines right after this.
Are you paying high prices with traditional health insurance that pays for things that violate your conscience? There is an alternative. Solidarity Health Share, a Sunrise Morning Show underwriter, is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services. Solidarity is not insurance. It's a not-for-profit medical cost-sharing ministry. They offer an alternative way to fund your medical expenses that's ethical, affordable, and more comprehensive. As a member, you choose the doctors you want to see by presenting your Solidarity member ID card. Solidarity allows you to remain faithful to Roman Catholic teachings, and you will never share into immoral medical procedures like abortion, sterilization, or contraception. Memberships start as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. To learn more, 844-313-4999. That's 844-313-4999 or solidarityhealthshare.org.
We know a lot of you love anything pumpkin-flavored, and others, well, not so much. But the Mystic Monks of Wyoming are taking care of both of you with their coffee.
That's right. Their seasonal favorite pumpkin spice blend is available, along with other normal flavors. And when you purchase them after clicking the Mystic Monk link at sunrisemorningshow.com, you earn us a commission.
While you're at our site, pick up a Sunrise Morning Show mug in our online store.
Get a mug and link to Mystic Monk Coffee at sunrisemorningshow.com.
Mother Angelica had a simple goal when she began EWTN: to reach the world with the gospel message. EWTN is the most trusted source of authentically Catholic content on the air today, 24/7, television, radio, social media, and podcasts. We've never wavered from our mandate to proclaim the truth and majesty of the Catholic faith. Thank you for joining EWTN in this mission.
18 past, here's Anna with headlines.
Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans, Louisiana. President Trump spoke at the UN General Assembly yesterday and also met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem sent a video message yesterday to an interfaith prayer service for peace in the Holy Land. And Matt, I wanted to bring something up to you.
Yes.
When it comes, I've been thinking about this, when it comes to the world of media professionals and who I look up to, it really doesn't get any better than Cy Kellett, does it? Host of Catholic Answers Live.
You know what, Anna Mitchell, I've had you in second place behind Cy for a very long time.
You know, that's a real honor, because to even be put in that same circle.
Actually, you know what? My name gets mentioned in the same breath as Cy Kellett's all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. People are always saying, that Matt Swaim, he's no Cy Kellett.
Yeah, I just want to say, I really hope that someday you and I can achieve his level of professionalism.
We all aspire to something.
And his charm on the air.
Yes. Yeah. And his straight-faced humor.
Yeah.
Which he cracks out of from time to time.
Indeed.
He's you'd think he was Canadian. Catholic Answers Live every afternoon here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
We kind of bookend. We're the early morning.
We're the early morning, and then as you're driving home, depending on when you got out of work, you either catch Dr. Marcus Peter and Ave Maria in the afternoon, or you catch Cy and the Gang. Cy and the Gang on Catholic Answers on EWTN Radio. Listen all day. It's 21 past.
Are starting to think outside the box to find new customers. You can reach millions of engaged Catholic listeners by underwriting the Sunrise Morning Show. Each weekday morning, listeners across the U.S. and around the globe can hear your message for your business, ministry, or nonprofit on the Sunrise Morning Show. To find out how it works, email me, Leah at sacredheartradio.com. That's Leah at sacredheartradio.com.
Hello, I'm Father Timothy Shear, and these are Biblical Impressions. Paul is well known for his many journeys. We might imagine the apostle to the Gentiles as an itinerant missionary, but that would be only part of the picture. Paul's custom was to remain in a single place for extended periods of time, using that place as a kind of base of operations. He would dispatch trusted associates like Timothy and Titus to represent him in other places. On his second journey, for example, Paul used Corinth in this way, spending 1.5 years there and writing at least one letter to the church in Thessalonica from Corinth. On his third journey, Paul used the great city of Ephesus in the same way, and from that city he wrote to the Corinthians, to the people in Philippi, and possibly also the Christians in Colossae and Galatia. After his work in the eastern provinces of Rome, Paul planned to preach in the western provinces, notably Spain, and this time his base of operations would be Rome itself. For Sacred Heart Radio, I'm Father Timothy Shear.
The Sunrise Morning Show continues. I'm Matt Swaim, joined now by Dr. Jim Schrader. He's the author of a book called Turning Free Will into Willpower, and we've been going through all kinds of aspects of the question of free will. Today we get to talk about wisdom and its role in this process. Dr. Schrader, good morning.
Good morning.
So I naturally gravitated towards this particular chapter because there are a lot of people out there who are doing apologetics work in the world of evangelization, but I get to produce the journey home, which means I get to do the storytelling part. And
Nice.
It's amazing that when people tell you why they become Catholic, very often the best stuff is not like, well, I intellectually assented to these 4 principles, but it's more like, this is this thing that happened to me, and it taught me something about myself and about God and about how I'm supposed to interact with him. So it seems to me, from the way that you're trying to tell this story of wisdom, that that's a really important thing to understand your own story and what you're learning from the things that your life is telling you by living it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Pope Benedict many years ago who had this great quote, and I won't be able to recreate the whole thing, but he basically said that Christianity is first and foremost an encounter, and an encounter that literally changes your life in the sense that it changes the way you look at things, it changes your perspective. It's an encounter with a human being or a situation or whatever. And I think that's exactly what you're saying here about the storytelling, is that wisdom is first and foremost, like, it's knowledge that comes alive, right? It comes alive in human beings. It comes alive in their ability to discern insight and their ability to relay it. And oftentimes not even relaying it with words, but relay it, in the examples they live. And in this chapter, I talk about just 2 remarkable people. One is a friend of mine's dad who lived to 101 and a half and just had incredible wisdom, incredible way of living through all sorts of eras. And then in the chapter with one of the people that I was closest to in my life who passed away about 5 years ago, and that was my grandfather. And, oftentimes his wisdom wasn't necessarily, again, articulated out loud, although, he would certainly say things that were really important. But it was the way that he lived, the way that he resolved, the way that he took on life, and just the lessons I really learned from him that really embedded themselves in me. And I think this is one of the keys, and I'll tell the story if you're interested, but the key is that once you really connect with that deeper sense of wisdom, it provides a sense, and this is where the will is, it provides a sense of motivation to use your free will in ways that align with God's will way beyond what we could ever describe. And I think it's such a powerful way that willpower arises.
Yeah, let's get into some of this here, because I found it fascinating as you asked this guy, who fought in World War II, who lived to, past 100 years old, and you asked him, do you have any wisdom you'd share with someone who is younger? You would expect, if you were just thinking about like practical things, well, here's a book that I wrote with 5,000 life lessons, about how to live your life well. But, you find the same thing when you meet a married couple who's been married for like 75 years or something. You're like, how do you do it? What wisdom do you have for younger couples? And it's usually something like, laugh together and don't hold a grudge. It's like usually something so simple that it's almost like underwhelming if you don't understand how wisdom works.
Yeah, in fact, so here's, I said, do you have any bits of wisdom you'd share with someone who's a lot younger? And to your point, here's his quote. He said, quote, I just mainly thank the Lord for every day, and I take one day at a time, and do your best, and try to do your best with whatever, end quote. All right.
Wait, you don't have any more than that? I mean, you've lived 102 years. I mean, it's...
That's right. At first you're like, oh my gosh, that's so underwhelming. But then, and I'll tell you what, in the last few years, I have really taken that idea, and I have really thought, what if we really get into it? Not just on the surface level, not just below the surface, but what if we really, really embrace one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time? What if we get into it and I tell you what, I have found some incredible spaces in that simple idea of doing your best in the day that you have and letting the rest take care of itself. Because I'll tell you one thing, if you think, Matt, like you want to simplify life, like I can't control what's happened before, and I certainly can't control what's coming ahead. Now I can plan for things, and that's great. But the wisdom of generations, the wisdom of saints says that if I put my heart and soul completely in what is today, and I try to do my best according to what I think God wants me to do, you want to talk about reducing anxiety, and you want to talk about like increasing empowerment. I'll tell you what, I mean, after hearing it, and I was like, oh, come on now. But then like really starting to get into it, I mean, he's got it. He's got it.
So I think last time you and I talked, I might have quoted the Beastie Boys at you. I'm going to quote a little David Bowie at you, who got really reflective in his later years. And in an interview, Bowie said something to the effect of, "This is the shock. All cliches are true. The years really do speed by. Life really is short." And he says, "And there really is a God? Do I buy that one? Well, if all the other cliches are true, don't ask me that one." Right? It seems to me like, there's a way to treat some of these sort of folksy pieces of wisdom that can be cliche, that can be sort of like cheap stuff that just, stitch into a Hallmark pillow. But some of that stuff is worth our reflection. Some of that stuff really does, if you sit with it, sink in and make a lot of sense.
Let me tell you what, one of my favorite quotes of all time, C.S. Lewis, he wrote all these books. He was just this huge giant of the, 20th century of Christianity. And he was asked by a woman one time, she's like, okay, look, you've written all these books, but I want you to like really boil it down. Like, what is the Christian experience, and literally like a sentence or two. And he said, okay, here's what it is. He said, it's this. It says, do your present duty, bear your present pain, enjoy your present pleasure, and let the emotions and experiences take care of themselves. Period. And I think, all right, I mean, again, we're back to this, like what you just said about David Bowie and what, like Ralph Probert's saying, and it's like, you've only got today, and what are you going to do with it? And are you going to embrace it? Are you going to, like, deal with it? Or are you going to look outside of today and think that your secrets lie somewhere in the future, somewhere in the past, and I think you're going to be disappointed.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Jim Schrader. Find his book linked in the show notes at sunrisemorningshow.com. 1:30. Here's Anna with news.
Good morning. Pope Leo today has appointed a coadjutor Archbishop of New Orleans. Up until now, Bishop James Checchio had been the head of the Diocese of Metuchen, New Jersey. He will now head south to New Orleans and serve alongside Archbishop Gregory Amond. Once the Pope officially accepts Archbishop Amond's retirement, Checchio will immediately take the reins there. President Trump has said NATO nations should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. He made the comments as he was meeting yesterday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations. Trump said the U.S. has great respect for the fight Ukraine is putting up against Russia, adding that the ongoing war is not a good thing for Russia. Meanwhile, President Trump said the United Nations can be a very good thing for the world. Here's Mark Mayfield.
Speaking alongside UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Tuesday, Trump said the U.S. is fully behind the UN.
And I think the potential of the United Nations is incredible.
The president added even though he has some disagreements, he backs the UN because of its potential to create peace. Earlier in the day, Trump addressed the General Assembly for the first time of his second term. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem sent a video message yesterday to an interfaith prayer service organized by the Sant'Egidio community in Rome for peace in the Holy Land. From Vatican Radio, Deborah Castellana-Lubov has more.
Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa joined via video message from the Holy Land, saying, "We are heartbroken. In 35 years, I've never seen a moment so dark." He says that we've left space to extremists on both sides, But I still trust, he noted, in the many gentle of heart who quietly work for justice and peace. The patriarch called for truth and justice with love toward all, warning that violence only fuels more hatred in a vicious cycle. Notably, he underscored when the language of force fails, when this entire structure of violence collapses, we must be ready to bring the strength of meekness so that all may inherit in beauty and love the land God has given us. Presiding over the vigil, Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti was equally direct. War is never a random tragedy, he said. It is chosen, willed, and it can and must be stopped. He added every violation of human rights is the result of specific decisions. War is not fate, it's a choice, and we must choose differently. Bassetti emphasized dialogue and human dignity, urging believers to never betray their shared humanity. The vigil included prayers for the hostages, war victims, and children in Gaza, with testimonies from people on the ground, including a poem from a Gazan mother. As voices rose in prayer, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi reminded listeners that not only Italy but all of Europe must become a teacher of peace. From Rome to Jerusalem, the vigil's message was clear that peace is possible. I'm Deborah Castellano-Lubov.
Pope Leo spent yesterday at Castel Gandolfo and spoke to reporters about the Holy Land as he prepared to return to the Vatican for his general audience today. He said, quote, "The Holy See recognized the two-state solution some time ago. That is clear. We must seek a path that respects all peoples." He said it could help, but right now there is no real willingness to listen on the part of the other side. Dialogue is broken, he said. Speaking about Russia and Ukraine, he said, quote, "Someone is seeking an escalation. It's getting more and more dangerous. I continue to insist on the need to lay down arms, halt military advances, and return to the negotiating table," end quote. The owners of Camp Mystic in Texas say the camp will reopen next summer. Tammy Trujillo has details.
27 young girls and counselors died at the summer camp in July during flooding in the Texas Hill Country. The New York Times reports the owners announced the decision in 2 emails sent hours apart on Monday. One email went to the families of the girls who died. The other went to a larger group of past campers. There are plans to build a memorial at the camp, but families of the victims are against it, saying they were never consulted and they don't approve of it. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And Jimmy Kimmel Live is back on the air on ABC. Last night, Kimmel hosted his first show since he was suspended indefinitely last week by the network following comments he made related to the response to Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's the news. It's 35 past the hour.
The Sunrise Morning Show.
It's back to school time and back to a busier morning routine. If you're going to need some help to get going, get yourself a few bags of Mystic Monk coffee.
And when you go to the Mystic Monk site through the link you find at sunrisemorningshow.com, you'll give us a boost with a commission on your purchase.
While you're at our site, pick up a Sunrise Morning Show mug or travel mug and perhaps a water bottle for your student. All available in our online store.
Find our store and link to Mystic Monk Coffee at sonrisemorningshow.com.
Business owners are starting to think outside the box to find new customers. You can reach millions of engaged Catholic listeners by underwriting the Sunrise Morning Show. Each weekday morning, listeners across the U.S. and around the globe can hear your message for your business, ministry, or nonprofit on the Sunrise Morning Show. To find out how it works, email me, Leah at sacredheartradio.com. That's Leah at sacredheartradio.com.
Dearest Jesus, teach me yourself to be silent. Abide in me as you do in the tabernacle, for my soul thirsts for this grace. Your loved presence guards my soul and keeps in check my thoughts, my words, my acts. Stay in my heart, dear Jesus, and transform it through love, humility, penance, and silence. Silence will help me to become more and more true, and this is sometimes more difficult than it seems. Love, patience, gentleness, humility, silence. Give me all these, dear Jesus, and make me holy insofar as you wish. Use me for souls, for your loved missions and missionaries. Use me in your own interest, for your greater glory, and let all be done and suffered in silence in the chapel of my little soul. For Sacred Heart Radio, I'm Sister Patricia G., Sister of St. Joseph the Worker in Walton, Kentucky.
The Sunrise Morning Show continues, and we've been going through Derek Roddy's book, Prophet of Hope. Fulton Sheen responds to the modern world, in which each chapter features some kind of thinker and some kind of way that Sheen responds to that particular worldview. Derek, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Matt.
So you perhaps saved the most complex guy to your last chapter. Michael Harrington is the last chapter. In Conversation with Socialism is the title of it, just to give you an idea of where it's going. But who was Michael Harrington for those who are not familiar?
Before I get to that, this definitely was the most sort of scintillating chapter to write. It had the most fireworks in it. So Michael Harrington was a son of Irish immigrants. He was born in the late 1920s, which makes him more than 30 years Sheen's junior, which is also part of why it was the last chapter. He was simply the last one of these interlocutors born, but he was born in St. Louis, Missouri, to a very comfortably middle-class family. He went to the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then to Yale Law School for a year, where he found the intellectual world of legal realism and very concrete social solutions to problems. He left law school, went to the University of Chicago to earn a master's degree in English, and then set off on his career as a writer to really his aim through his writing became to identify the problems of American society, the systemic problems, to use the word that gets thrown around a lot in our current discourse.
All right, so how much was his faith a factor in his convictions, at least in the early days, in regard to justice, especially economic justice?
Yeah, very much. I mean, when you look at his writing from his time, even at Holy Cross and into the early 1950s, so this would be a period of about 5 years, especially while he goes to New York and works with Dorothy Day and Peter Maurin in the Catholic worker movement, that he was a deeply committed Christian at the same time that he was deeply committed to social justice and ensuring the rights and the dignity of the poor, particularly the margins of society. And he was able to find a way to blend the two and make both very, very strong, very prevalent parts of his personality and his work.
It's so interesting to me that here at the end you have Michael Harrington, who sees kind of the folks who are left behind in the American progress machine, which a few chapters ago we talked about Henry Luce and his fascination with the American progress machine. And there's always the people who are going to benefit greatly from this, and always the people who are not going to benefit as well. And so the natural place for a lot of us to go as Americans, we're very pragmatic and practical people in a lot of ways. We want to find out, well, what policy will fix all this? Right. And it seems to me like that's where Harrington really got a little bit of tunnel vision on his idea is kind of like this focus on the practicality, the pragmatic in regard to these solutions.
Right, absolutely. He apostatized and would have called himself that. He called himself a pious apostate. He left the church a couple times, reverted once, and then left finally. And that's the point where the revolution of politics and social conditions became his religion. It became his God. And so that was the tunnel vision, as you say, that he took through the 1960s and into the 1970s.
Well, there is this sort of crossroads, and this happens on the left, it happens on the right, it happens in all kinds of different eras and in all kinds of sort of political moments where people bring an almost religious fervor Well, they bring a religious fervor that they had for their religion, and it gets mixed in with their politics. And at the end of the day, they sometimes get the two swapped out. And we see it all the time. As a matter of fact, I like to joke. Some people will say that evangelical Christians are often the most politically active force in the world, the most politically vociferous. And I say, well, maybe actually in my world it seems to be the people who used to be evangelical Christians, because they're used to attaching their religious fervor to something. And it seems like this is happening with Harrington.
Indeed. Yeah, that's a great description of that.
So what does Sheen say into this kind of world? Because Sheen probably is seeing the good and the bad here.
Yeah, well, certainly in the early days of Harrington's career, we see a lot of shared beliefs and shared pragmatic suggestions. It's almost as if Harrington was reading Sheen. The books that Sheen had produced through the late 1930s and 1940s. Again, because he was so much younger, and Sheen was a national personality through his radio show at that point. And then, of course, like I said, in the early 1950s, one of the most fascinating things is that they're both in New York in 1951, and there is some very specific, references by each to the other in that time period. And so, there's no specific evidence that I had that they met, but, they probably traveled in the same kind of social circles, if you will. And that's just kind of a fascinating thing. As Harrington goes one way and Sheen is trying to call the culture back to a realization that, yes, there are social problems, social ills, and then there are the suggestions of how we solve those, either through capitalism or communism or socialism. And Sheen says, that both of them are wrong because they essentially remove God or become anti-God and make the revolution into the God. And what Sheen would do is try to call the culture back to that, that individual decision to be a follower of Christ and the gospel. And that's what he does so many times throughout this discourse. And when he's dealing with economic principles, he said, he takes the parable of the Good Samaritan, for example, or he takes the story of Cain and Abel, and he places it in an individual psychological decision point where a person decides that he or she is going to act justly toward another person. He wanted to bring it back down to the most basic decision point, and that's what would change the culture. It's not an economic system in Sheen's, in Sheen's formulation. It's individual decisions day after day to treat the person who's in front of me with justice and respect and dignity.
Yeah, and in some ways, this is the reason socialism can never be accepted by Catholics. And why Leo XIII talked about it this way: you cannot take your moral decision making and just turn it all over to the state. You have a responsibility to the poor person in front of you. You have a personal responsibility to the needy person in front of you. And, there may be some problems that get fixed. There may be some new problems that arise because of, certain economic systems and policies. But that never absolves you of the duty that you have to the person who's right in front of you, and sometimes inside your own house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Derek, this has been a really fun series. I have really enjoyed seeing what Sheen had to say. I didn't realize exactly how many different angles there were for to be explored in regard to Sheen and all the different threads that are always swirling about in the American conversation. The book is called Prophet of Hope: Fulton Sheen Response to the Modern World. Derek, we've got it linked at sunrisemorningshow.com. Thanks. Keep writing books. Let's have you back.
All right. Thanks so much, Matt. God bless you.
All right, 14 till. We're back right after this.
The Comboni missionaries serve the poorest and most abandoned people in the world. Using their founder, St. Daniel Comboni, as an inspiration, the Comboni missionaries work for the full development of the human person. through evangelization, education, and advocacy, until those they minister to can take over those roles, not just for themselves, but for others in need. Learn more at combonimissionaries.org. That's combonimissionaries.org.
Support for the Sunrise Morning Show is from Visiting Angels, helping seniors remain independent and safe in their own home. Visiting Angels compassionate caregivers provide one-on-one essential home care services, including hygiene, meals, light housework, companionship, and more. For short or long-term assistance, even services up to 24 hours a day, Visiting Angels is there. More information is at visitingangels.com. That's visitingangels.com. Franchise opportunities available.
If you're on the pumpkin spice bandwagon but would rather not shell out $5 for a drink, the Mystic Monks can help you make your own at a fraction of the price.
Their pumpkin spice blend is now available along with all the other normal roasts. And when you buy their coffee after clicking the Mystic Monk link at sunrisemorningshow.com, you earn us a commission.
And don't forget to check out the Sunrise Morning Show mugs and travel mugs in our online store.
You can find the online store and link to Mystic Monk Coffee at sunrisemorningshow.com. That's sunrisemorningshow.com.
Hi, this is Brother John Bosco Mills. In our world, there are so many words and so many images, and they all have different messages, and they're giving us different messages. We need Catholic radio because we need to hear the voice of truth. And the voice of truth is the one that tells us about Jesus and his church. And Catholic radio gives us that truth.
The world needs EWTN Catholic Radio, now more than ever.
This is Dr. David Anders. Are your friends or family discouraging you from becoming Catholic? We can help on Called to Communion this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now back to the Sunrise Morning Show.
Well, we thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, the 24th of September. It's a big day in English Catholic history. It's the Feast of Our Lady of Walsingham. And here to talk about that with us is Monsignor Jeffrey Steenson, who was appointed by Pope Benedict XVI as the first ordinary of the personal ordinariate of the chair of St. Peter in 2012. Now, that covered the United States, but around the same time, the ordinariate for Our Lady of Walsingham was created in England and Wales. Monsignor Steenson, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Matt. It's great to be with you.
So, for the ordinariate world, how big of a feast day is this?
Well, it's our for the ordinariate here in the United States and Canada. I should add and Canada to this. This is our patronal day, our patronal festival today. So this is important for us. It's also commemorated in the United Kingdom and then the ordinariate down in Australia. The ordinariate of the Southern Cross, it's called down there. What is interesting, though, I hadn't really quite realized this until recently, that the Feast of Our Lady of Walsingham is celebrated in the Church in England and Wales, in the ordinary Catholic Church in England and Wales on this day. We just have a ferial day here in the United States in the Catholic Church, so that's kind of where this all stands.
So we're allowed to party, but it's not as official of a party, I guess in some ways. Well, so this is a devotion that goes back a long time, and you've had an opportunity to go to what they call England's Nazareth. Tell us about it.
Oh, yes, it's a wonderful thing. It's not easy to get to, first of all. It's about, maybe 120 miles northeast of London. Probably the largest major English city to it is Norwich. And in a way, the challenge of traveling up there, if you don't have a car, is quite similar to all those pilgrims throughout the Middle Ages and later who did it by foot. Because Walsingham was the principal Marian pilgrimage site in the Middle Ages. So people came from all over to it. We even find Erasmus making a pilgrimage to Walsingham in 15 11 when he was teaching at Cambridge University. So
yeah, that was not long before it was shut down either, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it was. It's the traditional date for when it started was in 1061 when the lady of the manor, Richeldes de Fabergé, had three visions in which the Blessed Virgin appeared to her, and the Blessed Mother took Richeldes to Nazareth, to the house where the Archangel Gabriel had visited her in the Annunciation. And Mary then asked Richeldes to build an exact replica of the Holy House of Nazareth in Walsingham. And she said, all who seek me there will find help and need. And I was fascinated to learn, of course, as you said, that the Holy House has been destroyed now, but the actual dimensions of it that Mary told Richeldes to measure were 24 feet by 13 feet. So you think about, that's like a room, but that was a house for the Blessed Mother in her day. Anyway, it grew and grew, and then at the Reformation, it just was destroyed. Basically, Henry VIII was responsible for it. He had the shrine torn down. He stole all of the gold and silver that had been left there by pilgrims over the centuries, and then he took the statue of Our Lady of Walsingham to London and destroyed it in a public event there. So it was just basically it was just left alone and destroyed until probably it was in the 1930s when the actual work to restore it began. And so today in the Shrine of Walsingham, the Holy House we don't know exactly what it looked like, but it becomes a side chapel to the main church in the shrine at Our Lady of Walsingham. So we can still basically go back and see it. And you also have this iconic archway across the way where that used to be the arch for the monastery that used to be there. And that's the only thing that stands now of the original. But
yeah, and I've seen a picture of you standing next to that arch because we put it in the Coming Home Network newsletter last year around this time. We've only got just a moment left here. What was it like? Because you got to visit this shrine with all the heads of the Ordinariates, the three Ordinariates, right after they got established. What was that like to pray together there with all these men?
It was a beautiful experience. And I think the thing I would like to emphasize is there's a Catholic shrine and an Anglican shrine at Walsingham. And it is so beautiful to see how people from both the Anglican and the Catholic world can pray together. So Walsingham's become a kind of a symbol of unity, Christian unity as well. But it's amazing to see so many people, thousands and thousands of people every year make this pilgrimage there. And I don't know, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for taking a little time out of your morning today to share a little bit with us. I'm going to post an article that you wrote for us over at the Coming Home Network about England's Nazareth, a brief history of Our Lady of Walsingham. Monsignor Jeffrey Steenson, thank you for taking your time this morning to share with us your story of Walsingham, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
And God bless you and all of your listeners today.
Again, you can find a link at sunrisemorningshow.com to the Ordinariate. A big feast day, especially for our England and Wales friends who are part of the Ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham. That wraps it up for the Sunrise Morning Show on the EWTN, a Global Catholic Radio Network. We got more coming for our local listeners here in just a bit. In the meantime, I'm Matt Swaim for Anna Mitchell and all of our guests. May God bless you and keep you and grant you his peace.